So today I'm going to be making some homemade bread, and I found a really easy, like idiot-proof recipe. My husband's cousin's wife, so the simple way of saying that is my cousin. That's how I see it, that's how I was raised. But anyways, she shared a recipe on Instagram, and I've made probably 8 loaves at this point. And I never do well following recipes. I always screw them up somehow. With my ADHD, I can't focus on the ingredients enough to get them like perfect. And usually it turns out okay, but this I've learned I can be a little bit flexible with the measurements and it still turns out great. So this is perfect for anyone who struggles to find the motivation to follow a recipe to the T. And anybody else who likes bread. I've also heard that you can make it gluten-free and it turns out just as good, like delicious, by just changing a few ingredients, but I don't have that recipe, so you might have to do a little research on your own. So today I'm gonna make cinnamon raisin, bacon cheddar, and jalapeno cheddar bread. And it's like a 2-day process. You're supposed to let the dough rest for 8 to 24 hours, so I might make one tonight, but chances are it'll be tomorrow when I put them in the oven. So I'm going to show you what ingredients I use and how I mix it and all that. I'll also have a list down below of all the ingredients I use and step-by-step instructions. Okay, so like I said, I'm making 3 loaves, so I'm gonna just start off with the ingredients that is the same in all 3. And mix them into my bowls, get that yeast started. All right, so if I were to just want a regular white loaf of bread, I would stop right here. This is all it takes. What was that, 4 ingredients to make a delicious loaf of white bread. But this one I'm gonna do my cinnamon raisin. I'll show you what I add to that. And there you have it, a couple swirls around with a spatula, and you have a delicious, almost like donut, kind of sweet loaf of cinnamon raisin. For us, we prefer it that way, so if you're not into sweet things, you might want to add half of the ingredients that we did. Up next, I'm doing the bacon cheddar, and at the same time, I'm doing the jalapeno cheddar. Basically, I'm adding 1 cup of cheddar to each bowl, which is a little confusing. I wish I would have filmed it a little different, but the glass bowl on the right side is just getting 1 cup of cheese, cheddar cheese. Sharp cheddar makes it even better in my opinion, but I was just using what I had on hand. So you'll see finished off 1 bag and I'm going on to the next, and then I'm going to add approximately 3/4 of a cup of bacon bits, bacon crumbs, whatever you want to add, whatever kind of bacon you like. You can really make it your own. And then I'll go into the other bowl, the plastic bowl on the left. After adding that 1 cup of cheese, I then add about 1/2 cup of jalapenos. What I have found is that draining, so when you buy your jalapenos in a glass jar, it's easy to strain them and then keep the juice into a bowl or a cup. That way you can re-add it to the jar if you don't use the whole jar. There we have it, all three. Now have to wait a full at least 8 hours, if not 24. There is fast acting yeast that you can buy. I believe that cuts the time down to like 4 hours, but I haven't tried it. I kind of love having bread bowls out on the counter. Even though I hate a cluttered counter, just makes me feel more like, I don't know, Betty Crocker. So I will see you guys again when I'm ready to put these in the oven. Alright guys, so it is the next morning at 7:30-ish. I already turned on the oven to preheat it and the cast iron skillet. So basically I turned the oven on 450 and then put the cast iron skillet in, and I set a timer for 30 minutes. That way it's nice and hot. I don't know the science behind it all. It just helps the bread cook a little better. So I am about to pull the cast iron skillet that is very hot out of the oven. Cast iron skillet, no, it's a Dutch oven. Sorry, it's really early. I haven't had my coffee yet. I'm about to pull that out of the oven and then put my dough in. You're supposed to add a little flour to the dough first and let it set while the oven is warming up along with the Dutch oven, and I haven't done that, so it's not going to get its 30 minutes of rest after I add a little flour and knead it. But I've done this before and it turned out okay, so I will show you guys how I add the flour, stir it up, and then maybe I'll let it rest. I don't know. All right, so I'm just showing you guys, it's been about 20 hours since I made the dough, and that's what it looked like. The professionals and the real bakers out there would tell you that what I'm about to show you is incredibly wrong. But I can tell you from past experience, this works. The bread is absolutely delicious. I think most people add enough flour that it doesn't stick to your fingers anymore, and they really like knead the dough and work the dough. And I think that helps create some really good air bubbles in the bread. I can tell you that it tastes pretty darn good without all of that getting your fingers dirty and making the mess on the counter and all that. So this is just my way of doing it. If you want your bread to look a certain way, you might not want to follow this part. But what I'm doing is just adding little bits of flour until it's no longer like sticking to the spatula and the bowl. And from there, I'll just plop it onto some parchment paper. I started out using wax paper thinking that that's what would work in the Dutch oven to just kind of not make a mess. And my bread was sticking to the wax paper. So I can tell you from experience in that sense that parchment paper is what you need. All right, so while that first one is cooking in the oven right now, I am going to prep the next loaf because I'm gonna cook at least 2 of them, probably all 3. I kind of have an exciting adventure I want to go on today, so hopefully we'll have time because it takes half hour each kind of thing. But I think I'll have time, and I'm gonna get these next 2 loaves ready. So as you can see, my bowl was not big enough. I gave it a shot, adding some flour to the bowl and trying to mix it up. Eventually, I just give in and flop it over onto that wax paper, where I ended up not being lazy and not trying to avoid getting dirty, sticky, gooey fingers. I actually did knead this bread a lot better than the cinnamon raisin loaf. Honestly, can't tell you that it tasted or looked any different in my opinion. So that just kind of goes to back up my whole theory that it doesn't really matter how much you knead the bread. You just want to get it to that not so sticky texture before you put it into that hot Dutch oven to bake. And now that I have that loaf all ready to rest, it's supposed to rest 30 minutes before it goes into the Dutch oven. I'm now going to work on mixing up the jalapeno cheddar. And again, I just added flour until I felt that it wasn't sticky and gooey anymore. This time around, I did do something a little different, and you'll see that pretty soon. I watched a video where someone added water to the top of their bread as it was like right before you put it in the oven to bake. And I do feel like the crust was a little bit less like crunchy, which I love the crunchy crust. You can't get bread at the store, at least I haven't found it, with that crispy, fresh out of the oven crunch. And so that's been really nice, but there are kids in our family who don't like the crispy crust. And I can say that for me personally, I don't like it every time on every loaf. So it did make a softer top, but it was still like absolutely delicious. So I might actually like the water on top a little more, and I might continue to do it that way. Oh my gosh. That smells amazing. Oh my gosh. Smells like a bakery in here. Like, it smells like donuts. Full honesty, I totally spaced cooking it an extra 5 minutes with the top off. So once you cook the bread for 30 minutes, you're supposed to take the lid off of the Dutch oven and continue to cook it for an extra 5 to give it a little extra crisp. And it browns it a little. It just looks better. And I totally spaced it. That bread was absolutely delicious, and you could smell it the second I opened the oven door. All right, being fully honest here, it has not been a full 30 minutes since that bread came out of the oven. It's been more like 15, but I can't wait anymore. It looks and it smells amazing, so I am going to cut into it.
Are you gonna sourdough bread today?
I don't think that thing turned out. Is it on the bread?
Mm-hmm. I went down. Bread?
It's a lot of raisin, but boy, does that look yummy.
I don't want that one.
You don't want that one?
I like the raisin powder. I mean, not the raisin powder. The cinnamon. I'll try it. Look at my bread.
Who needs an ear? I like it.
You enjoy it?
An ear. It's like a channel that goes across the top. Ooh, that smells yummy. Where's that? Okay.
What?
Nothing, I'm talking to myself. Leave me alone. Oh, Brady. Alright, so there is loaf number 3. This is the bacon cheddar. Just an FYI, you can reuse the wax paper. No, parchment paper. That's what this is. Wax paper stuck to my bread. So yeah, this is loaf number 3. I noticed that they don't crust as hard and firm if you add a couple drops of water to the top, which is what I did. It was something that I saw in a video and I thought I'd give it a shot. I kind of like it. I love the crust. This one didn't have the drops of water on it. But sometimes it's a bit much, so it looks a little undercooked. Actually, it might be a little bit. You can see a little bit of gooey stuff in there, but it's totally fine. You could always recook that one a little bit longer, but I don't think I'll have that problem with this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy.